After 70, you don't need friends. Here's why you'll be happier without them. Have you ever had a moment where you sat quietly, sipping your tea or coffee, and suddenly thought, I'm okay being by myself? Maybe you used to be the one organizing gatherings, hosting dinners, making the phone calls. But now it's quieter, fewer texts, fewer visits, and surprisingly, but thus, it doesn't feel like a loss. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know there's nothing wrong with you. In fact, there might be something very right about that. You see, we grow up believing that we always need to be surrounded by people to be happy, that more friends equals more joy. But after 70, life starts whispering a different truth. And it's not about loneliness or giving up on people. It's about discovering something far more powerful, your own peaceful independence. Now, I'm not here to tell you to cut off every friend you've ever known. Not at all. But what I am here to say is this: if your circle has gotten smaller, if your weekends are quieter, and if you've stopped chasing certain relationships, that might actually be one of the best things to ever happen to you. Let's talk about why. In this video, we're going to gently walk through 6 powerful reasons why having fewer or even no friends after 70 can lead to a deeper sense of freedom, joy, and personal peace than you may have ever known before. Not because you've given up on people, but because you've finally come home to yourself. Let's begin with something we don't talk about enough: emotional energy. At this stage in life, your emotional energy is precious. You've carried a lifetime of responsibilities, raising children, caring for others, navigating work, dealing with family dynamics. You've probably poured more into others than you ever saved for yourself. And now you deserve to protect that energy like gold. Friendships, as beautiful as they are, can sometimes be draining. The gossip, the complaining, the feeling like you have to call back, meet up, attend events, when all your soul really wants is a quiet afternoon in the garden. When you stop forcing friendships that no longer bring you joy, you start reclaiming that energy. You stop living for others' expectations and start choosing how your day feels. No guilt, no pressure, just peace. That leads us to something even more powerful: clarity. There's a strange kind of wisdom that arrives with age. You begin to see things more clearly, not just in others, but in yourself. You realize which relationships lifted you up and which ones quietly wore you down. Sometimes the friendships we held on to the tightest were the ones built on habit, not happiness. And when life slows down a bit, when the kids are grown, when retirement sets in, when the noise dies down, you get to really see who matters. And often you find that your strongest, most fulfilling connection isn't with a neighbor or an old friend from church. It's with you, with your thoughts, your memories, your routines. You realize you enjoy your own company far more than you expected. And that's not a sign of isolation. It's a sign of maturity. It means you've cultivated peace within. You've traded social pressure for self-trust. Let me ask you this: when was the last time you did something entirely for yourself, without worrying about pleasing anyone else? A quiet walk, a favorite movie, a nap in the afternoon sun? When friendships fade, those simple joys become the heart of your days. And in that stillness, something incredible happens. You rediscover your independence. Now, independence isn't about pushing people away. It's about no longer needing their approval to feel whole. After 70, your life doesn't need to be validated by lunch dates or holiday cards. You don't need a party to feel seen. You don't need someone's text message to feel important. You've lived. You've earned your peace. You've earned the right to not explain yourself to anyone. I want you to remember this. Your value has nothing to do with how many people are in your life. It has everything to do with how you treat yourself. There's a kind of magic that happens when you stop waiting for someone else to call and instead pick up the book you've been meaning to read. When you stop worrying who you'll sit next to at church and start focusing on how deeply the message speaks to your heart. When you stop looking for who will make time for you and realize you've got all the time in the world to enjoy on your terms. And isn't that a kind of joy we all deserve? As we continue this journey together, keep this truth close. Fewer friends doesn't mean less happiness. It can mean more space, more clarity, more you. Let's talk more about what that can really look like. And when you finally have that space, when the noise quiets down and the calendar clears, you start to notice things you hadn't before. The smell of your morning coffee, the way sunlight falls across the floor in the afternoon, the sound of your own breath when the world is still. These aren't small things, they're your things, and they've been waiting patiently for your attention. That brings us to another important truth that blossoms after 70, freedom from drama. Oh, what a gift that is. You've probably spent decades dealing with the ups and downs of other people's emotions. Friends who always needed advice. Relatives who brought their problems to your doorstep. Social obligations that left you exhausted more than uplifted. And let's be honest, how many of those situations actually made you feel good in the end? One of the most beautiful shifts that happens in later life is this. You stop needing to fix everything for everyone. You realize you are not responsible for other people's feelings, or their choices, or their chaos. And when you no longer feel the pull to keep the peace or be polite out of habit, something amazing opens up inside you. Peace. Real peace. Not just quiet surroundings, but a calm heart, a clear mind. You stop checking your phone for texts that never come. You stop rehearsing conversations in your head. You stop feeling guilty for saying no or choosing not to reply because you finally understand this truth. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It's essential. And the friendships that require constant maintenance, constant forgiveness, or constant effort, they fade, and you let them go. Not out of anger, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. You know what your heart can carry now and what it no longer needs to. And when you let go of those draining ties, you make room for something deeper than connection. Contentment. It's funny, when we're younger, we're always chasing something. A better job, a bigger house, more friends, more attention. But after 70, you begin to see the truth. Contentment isn't about getting more. It's about needing less. You start finding joy in the simplest of routines. A walk to the mailbox, watering your plants, watching a bird land on your windowsill. And the best part, you don't need to share those moments to make them feel real. You don't need to post a photo or wait for someone to say, "That looks lovely." You already know it's lovely because you felt it. That's what independence really gives you. It gives you ownership over your happiness. You don't depend on someone else's mood, attention, or approval to shape your day. You've spent enough of your life living for others. Now you're finally living for you. And that's not something to feel sad about. It's something to celebrate. And let's not forget, solitude also brings clarity of purpose. Think about it. How many times in your life did you get swept up in other people's needs, plans, and decisions? How often did you push your own passions to the side just to be what someone else needed? But now you get to ask yourself, what do I enjoy? What fills me up? What makes me feel alive? Maybe it's painting or journaling or walking at sunrise. Maybe it's learning something new, something you never had time for before. Independence after 70 gives you a clean canvas. And you, my friend, are the artist now. You don't need anyone else to hand you a brush. You've had it all along. And here's something else people don't say enough. You are allowed to outgrow relationships, even long ones. Just because you've known someone for 30 years doesn't mean they belong in your life today. Just because you once laughed together doesn't mean you're still aligned. Life changes, people change, you change. And sometimes growing older means growing away. Not in anger, but in growth. You're learning what you value now, what your heart needs now, and that might not match the people you once spent time with, and that's okay. You can love the memories and still walk away from the present. You can appreciate what someone once meant to you without needing to keep them in your daily life. That's not cold. That's healthy. That's boundaries. That's wisdom. And the amazing thing is, when you let go of what no longer fits, you create space for new kinds of joy to enter. Not necessarily new people, but new experiences, new ideas, new self-awareness. You become your own best companion. You laugh at your own jokes. You enjoy your own company. You finally understand that being alone isn't the same as being lonely. In fact, sometimes the loneliest place of all is a room full of people who don't really see you. But when you're sitting quietly with yourself and you feel calm, centered, and complete, that's the opposite of loneliness. That's wholeness. And isn't that the kind of life you deserve after everything you've been through? Let's keep going. There's still more to explore on this journey to independence and the surprising joy that comes with it. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this chapter in life is realizing you don't have to prove anything anymore. Not to anyone, not even to yourself. You've done enough. You've loved, helped, supported, and given. You've worried more than you should have, stayed quiet when you wanted to speak, and said yes even when you were tired. But now you get to just be. That's where the final shift begins. Peace with your own path. You see, for most of our lives, we're told how it's supposed to look. A life well lived means lots of friends, social events, active calendars. But who decided that? Who said that being surrounded by people is the only measure of happiness? The truth is, there are many ways to live fully, and quietly is one of them. Joy doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it's found in silence, in the rustling of leaves, in a quiet prayer before bed, in watching the clouds move while sipping tea with no one else around. After 70, life invites you to go deeper, not wider. Deeper into yourself, into your thoughts, your memories, your values. You begin to realize how rich your inner world has become, how many lessons you've learned, how many stories you carry, and you no longer need an audience for those stories to matter. You lived them. You felt them. That's enough. And when people do come into your Steve, maybe a kind neighbor, a friendly face at the library, it's no longer out of need, it's out of choice. You're not trying to fill a void. You're simply sharing a moment. That's the beauty of healthy independence. It doesn't shut people out. It simply means you're whole without them. And here's a little secret. Some of the most content people in the world aren't surrounded by crowds. They're sitting quietly on a porch, watching the world go by, completely at peace with who they are and what they've lived. You've reached a season of life where you get to be intentional. You get to decide what fills your day, your mind, and your heart. You've earned the right to be selective, to say no without explanation, to say yes only when it truly feels right. And that's not loneliness, that's emotional freedom. Let's take a moment to imagine something together. Picture yourself waking up tomorrow with no obligations, no pressure, no expectations. You step outside and breathe in the morning air. You water your plants, enjoy a slow breakfast, maybe even take a little walk. There are no messages to return, no plans to chase. Just you and the day ahead, waiting for you to shape it however you like. That is joy. That is success. That is independence. And if one day you decide to share it with someone, a grandchild, a friend, a neighbor, you do it because you want to, not because you have to. That's what makes those connections even sweeter. They're not born from fear of being alone. They're built on a foundation of strength. There's nothing sad about needing fewer people. In fact, it often means you've learned to listen more deeply to yourself. You've stopped tolerating what drains you. You've chosen to spend your time wisely on what brings you peace, not performance. So if anyone ever tries to make you feel like something's wrong because your phone isn't ringing off the hook or your social calendar isn't packed, smile gently. You know something they don't. You know that life isn't about how many people surround you. It's about how deeply you've learned to enjoy your own company. You are not missing out. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming exactly who you were always meant to be. So embrace your independence with pride. Trust the wisdom in your soul. Honor the stillness that your heart has finally found. And let this chapter be the one where you matter most, to yourself. If this message touched something in you, I hope you'll take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us how you have embraced your own peace. You never know who your story might inspire. And if you found comfort here, I invite you to like the video and subscribe for more gentle, empowering reminders that growing older isn't about losing. It's about returning to what really matters. You deserve a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks busy from the outside. Here's to simplicity. Here's to strength. Here's to living your best life on your own terms.